Welcome to the Effortless English Show with the world's #1 English teacher, AJ Hoge, where AJ's more than 40 million students worldwide finally learn English once and for all, without the boring textbooks, classrooms, and grammar drills. Here's AJ with a quick piece to help you learn to speak fluent English effortlessly.
Hi, I'm AJ Hoge, the author of Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native. And the father of the effortless English system that trains you to speak English powerfully, speak English confidently, speak English fluently. Speak English effortlessly. When you train, join, and commit to my VIP program at effortlessenglishclub.com. It's a good time to join. Spring is coming in lots of the world. It's springtime, you know, the sun's going to start coming out more, longer days, a little bit warmer in many places. Of course, I'm talking about the northern hemisphere. It's a good time. It's a good time of year to work on your English, right? You know, for me, when spring comes, I always feel like I get more energy. In the winter, I feel my energy drops. It always kind of drops down. My physical energy and also my mental energy. Just, it's kind of natural. Shorter days, a little colder, or a lot colder. And energy just tends to drop, motivation drops, everything kind of goes down a little bit. It's kind of more of a time, it feels like more of a time for resting. But then when spring comes, always I get this quick increase. More energy, more motivation. For my physical body, I'm always motivated and energized to start exercising again. This is a pattern. My whole life I notice this, that often in the winter months I'll stop doing a lot of exercise. Now, luckily, this winter I did continue doing some exercise, but more mild. This is normal for me, that I'll just tend to, during the winter months, my exercise will become just a bit less. It just becomes more moderate, more mild, right? M-I-L-D, mild. Not as hard, not as intense. But then naturally what seems to happen is, as the weather starts getting a little warmer, the days start getting longer again, I find just a natural energy, a natural desire to get out and exercise more, to walk or run farther and faster, to do more push-ups and pull-ups or weightlifting or whatever I'm doing. It just seems to naturally happen right around this time of year. Now, this also happens mentally, and this is why I'm encouraging you. This is a great time to join my VIP program and make a big push, a mental push, an energetic push. Push yourself to use those lessons. If you're already a VIP member, try to start now increasing the amount you listen each day. I think if you're listening 1 hour per day, usually, that's great. Try to increase it to 1 hour and 30 minutes per day. Or maybe you're already doing very well. You're doing 2 hours per day. Try to do 2.5 hours per day listening to your VIP lessons. If you're not a VIP member, commit to the VIP program at effortlessenglishclub.com, effortlessenglishclub.com. It's a good time now to commit, Use that little increase in energy, maybe a big increase in energy. It's a good time. A lot of people start New Year's. They'll make New Year's resolutions. In some ways, I think New Year's is actually a bad time to do that. Because the problem with New Year's is, at least in the north part of the world, the northern hemisphere, it's winter time. Which is, actually, it's kind of a bad time to start a new goal. Start trying to increase your motivation and your energy doing something. January is kind of a bad time for that. If you live in Europe, if you live through all of Asia, north of the equator, the northern hemisphere, all through North America, where actually, that's where a lot of the population of the world lives. It's actually a terrible time. It's the deepest part of the winter, the coldest, darkest part of the winter. That's a hard time to start energizing yourself and doing big new projects. The New Year is actually quite a tough time for that. A much better time, a more natural time for that is springtime. It's about now, March. Now, the good thing is, even in the southern hemisphere, those of you down in Brazil and, Argentina and other places south in the southern part of the world, some of you may live in Australia. Well, it's your fall then, right? You're going into your fall, which is still a very nice time of year. And in fact, for those tropical areas, in some tropical areas, you might be getting a little bit more of a cool season. Now, in other tropical areas like Thailand, for example, it's the opposite. You're going into the hot season now. But anyway, hot weather is also a good time to increase that motivation, increase your energy, doing more. At least for me, I like hot weather. But especially those of you in the north. Really, the beginnings of spring, the end of winter, that's a much better time for those resolutions, those big goals, those big decisions, making the big changes in your life. Because you will find naturally, biologically, physically, your energy will start going up. Mental energy, emotional energy, and physical, right? The energy in your body. All of these go up. It's also very natural in the springtime to just start feeling better, your mood to get better, right? To just start feeling a little happier, a little more motivated, a little more energized, smiling a bit more. Why? Because the sun's starting to come out, the flowers will be coming out soon. Again, longer days, which means more sunshine. All of those things, I remember many spring times in my life, especially growing up in the United States, and how everybody seemed happier. Like suddenly it seemed like around March, maybe towards the end of March, that everybody around in my town just seemed like they were in a better mood. It's natural. And again, like I said, always when I started a new exercise program, when I decided, I'm going to train for a marathon, I'm going to start doing extra exercise or more exercise or get in better shape, I always find that it was always easiest to start some new program. Always the easiest time to start would be about this time, around March. Still a bit at the end of winter, but the starting to get warmer days, and then of course that energy increasing. And it works also for mental things such as learning English, improving your English. This really is the better time to make that resolution, to make that goal. So maybe you made your resolution in January. I think this is a reason, by the way. I think this is one reason a lot of New Year's resolutions fail, that a lot of people fail. They make a goal in January, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to join the VIP program and improve my English. I'm going to get more leadership skills, whatever it is. A lot of people make those goals in January, but then very quickly they kind of lose their energy. They take action maybe only for 1 week, and then it just kind of stops, and so the goals fail. I think one reason, as I said, this happens is just that they're trying to energize themselves at a difficult time of year, at a time of the year that actually most of us want to do the opposite. We want to do less. We want to, relax more, stay inside more, be a little more quiet, a little less active. So maybe we should have springtime resolutions instead of New Year's resolutions, which is the old tradition. Maybe we should do a new Effortless English tradition, springtime resolutions, so that springtime is when you make those goals for the year. Right? So right now, March, make your New Year's goals now, March, and then try to accomplish those goals by next March, March of 2020. So you still have 12 months, but you start in March when it's a really good time to start for most people. So make that New Year's resolution, but make it now your springtime resolution. This is a very good time to increase your English efforts. It's a good time to do a little more with your VIP lessons each day, each week, each month, each year. It's a good time to start the VIP program if you haven't already, and to really commit. It's a good time to commit to any important goals you have in your life. And if you did in January and you stopped, recommit. Commit again now, because you might find that trying again to start those goals, trying again right now, in March, you might find it's easier. You might find that you get more success, that you get started better, that you take more action. So this is a good time of year for that. So commit to that VIP program. It's a good time to join now at effortlessenglishclub.com. I've got a word for you, and one of my favorite words in English. I've mentioned before about vocabulary, that we have different levels of vocabulary. I guess that's the best way to say it. Different levels of vocabulary. Now, on one hand, we have two ways of knowing vocabulary, two levels of knowing. What does that mean? Well, it means active and passive. Active and passive, which I've talked about many times in the past. Passive vocabulary, that's the easier one. Passive vocabulary, that means you understand a word. You understand it. You know the meaning when you hear it or read it. You understand it. But maybe you don't use it. Maybe when you speak, you never really use it when you speak. And maybe when you're writing, you never use the word. Because that's called active vocabulary. Active means you actually use the word. You know how to use it correctly. Passive, passive, maybe you have a general idea. You kind of know the meaning of the word when you see it or hear it. But you don't know it good enough yet. Not good enough to use it when you're speaking in a normal conversation. So that's totally normal, by the way. It's totally normal to have these two levels. And it's completely normal, 100% normal, that you have a lot more passive vocabulary. It's very normal. You might know, like understand, 10,000 English words or 20,000 English words. But actively, using words, maybe you only use 5,000 when you speak. Right? A much smaller amount. Now that's totally normal. That's normal for native speakers like me who learned English as a baby, and it's normal for English learners, who learn English later in life. So it's totally normal, and it's normal for all languages too, that you have a lot more passive vocabulary and a smaller active vocabulary. So that's one kind of level, the level of knowing vocabulary. Another level, kind of way to think about different levels of vocabulary, is levels or the different kinds of meaning. That words have different levels of meaning. They have kind of their basic meaning, but then they also have what are called connotations. So the actual words is denotation and connotation. You don't need to know those really, but it's new vocabulary. Denotation means the direct meaning of a word. The direct meaning of a word. It's the very direct and obvious meaning. The connotation of a word, it's the indirect, the not direct meaning. It's like the emotion. I say it's the emotional flavor, the emotional feeling of the word, which is this. It's a more advanced level of knowing. So I'll give you an example today, because when you're learning vocabulary, the first thing you learn the denotation, right? You usually learn the direct, obvious meaning. But learning all the little flavors of the word, the emotional flavors of the word, that usually takes much longer. You have to see the word used many, many times, and then you start to get more of a feeling for it. So let's talk about a word today, one of my favorite words in English, devotion. Devotion. So what is the direct meaning of this word, devotion? Devotion is, you'll probably find in a dictionary or a thesaurus, they'll say something like loyalty. Loyalty. Right? If you are devoted to your husband, if you're a woman, you're devoted to your husband, right? You're very loyal to your husband. And it also can have a little bit of the idea of having love in there, right? This is now where we're getting to the connotation, the feeling of the word, because devotion is more than loyalty. These are similar words, but they're not the same. Devotion is a stronger word. Emotionally, devotion is stronger than loyalty. Right? Loyalty means you will always, help. You're always on their side. You always fight for them. You always be on their side. So you can be loyal to your family, for example. I'm loyal to my family, right? You'll never betray them. You'll never do something bad against them. You always fight on their side. Even if you're arguing with each other, you will always help them against anyone on the outside. That's loyalty, right? You can be loyal, the same thing. You can be loyal to your country. You're loyal to your nation. So maybe, probably you have lots of things about your own nation, your own country that you don't like, that you complain about. And there are different things that, people inside the country will argue about all the time. And maybe those arguments are very, very angry sometimes. But you're loyal to your country still. So if an outside group attacks your country, you are going to fight against them. You're going to defend your nation because you're loyal to your nation. It's a great word, loyalty, and loyalty is a good thing. It's a virtue, for sure. But devotion has deeper meaning, deeper connotation, deeper emotional meaning. It's much deeper and stronger than just loyalty. It's more than. It includes loyalty. It is also loyalty, but much, much more than that. Let's talk about devotion. I think of it as having four things. Loyalty is one of them, but also love. It also gives the idea of love. See, sometimes we can be loyal, but maybe not so much love. You might be loyal to your sports team, for example. You're loyal. You're a loyal fan. You have been a fan of one team, your whole life, right? Because you're from that city or something, and so you can say I'm a loyal fan. But it's not quite the level of loyal to your family, right? It's different, right? You wouldn't really say devotion to your sports team. It's too strong. You might be loyal to a sports team, but not devotion. It's not that deep kind of love. Another part of devotion that's different than just loyalty, what makes it stronger, is that devotion also has the idea, the flavor, the connotation of giving. When you're devoted to someone or something, some group, it also has the idea that you are serving that person, meaning you are trying to contribute to them somehow, giving to them, helping them directly somehow. serving, contributing, that you try to understand them. All of these together, mixed in together, gives you the idea of devotion, and you can see why it's stronger. Loyalty really means just that, you're on their side. But as I said, with loyalty, you might fight with the people on your team, right? Let's say you're loyal to your team. It's just any team. It might be a business team. It might be sports team, whatever. You're loyal to them, but maybe in between the games, if you're a sports team, maybe you're always fighting and arguing and a lot, you don't like each other. This is possible. It's possible to not like people on your team, but you're still loyal to the team. It's completely possible. In fact, it can be very common. But devotion is much, 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 much deeper. It's a super commitment. It has the idea of a super commitment to this person or people. Devotion. It's a deep, deep love. It's a deep love, a deep loyalty, and a desire, a strong desire to help, to contribute, to give to that person or those people. We give devotion to our people. Our people. What does that phrase mean? Our people. Your people. Who are your people? Well, of course, you have to decide that, but typically, usually, your people would include your family, of course. It might also include your closest friends. Might include your tribe, your community, even your nation. It's up to you to decide that, but it's people. It's real people. Your people. Right? We don't feel devotion to strangers. That's insanity. To be devoted to strangers that you don't know, that you've never met, you don't know anything about them. That's crazy. No, you don't. It's nobody's devoted, or not. Nobody who's not crazy is devoted to strangers, right? You're devoted to people you know and care about deeply, because again, devotion has this idea of love. Wanting to contribute, loyalty, all these things mixed in together. This is one of the great things about vocabulary, and not all words, but many words. Because they have these great mixtures of meaning and emotion and feeling. This is what people will use the word devotion when they talk about God. Devotion to God. Devotion to husband, devotion to wife, devotion to your family, to your children, right? Not devotion to some guy at work. That's right. We don't use the word. We don't say, "Oh yeah, I am really devoted to my coworker." It's too strong of a word. You might be kind of loyal to your company, maybe. Although today that's also difficult to do because the companies are not loyal to their employees usually. But in the past, people used to be loyal to their companies. But not devoted. It's too strong. Again, you're devoted to God. You're devoted to your people, to your family. So let's talk about these different parts of this word, devotion. Number one, like I said, it has the idea of love. Love. But not love like romantic love. I'm not talking about romantic love, like you're just attracted physically. This is more like a spiritual love, right? We're at the spiritual level, the very deep, deep, deep level. At the most basic level, this means that the person you're devoted to, or God, whatever, or the people, are super, super important for you. They're a top priority for you. That's one part of love, right? If you love someone, they are super important to you. You're saying that they are very, very, very important to you. They are at top priority, means top importance to you, right? Hopefully you love your husband or your wife, and one thing that means, it means that they are, super, super, super important to you. Probably the most important person to you in your life, as well as your children, of course. And maybe also including your own parents, your brothers and sisters, right? Those close, close, close family. You love them, meaning they are super important. Love also has the idea of, kindness and compassion and caring, right? You care what happens to them. You want them to be happy. When you love someone, you really, really want them to be happy. Their happiness makes you happy. When you really love someone, you want to take the time to be with them. Just being with them. You don't have to get something from them. See, they make you happy just being around them, just hanging out with them, just doing things with them. That's enough. So now, not just talking about vocabulary now, talking about you and your life, all of us and our lives, devotion is an important thing for us because it brings great happiness. This is connected again to something I talked about last week, where we're talking about worry and how, on one hand, yes, of course, we have to become independent. We have to focus on ourselves, meaning we have to know ourselves. We have to develop ourselves. We try to improve ourselves to be the best possible person, the best possible people we can be, right, as individuals. Or like Stephen Covey said in his book, right? We develop that independence first. But we don't stop there. We don't stop there. Because if you stop there and you just always focus on just yourself, me, I, only me, you will be unhappy. And that's the basic thing. You'll be unhappy. We could talk about other problems with always focusing on yourself only, but the most selfish one, ironically, the most selfish one is that when you only focus on yourself, you eventually become quite unhappy. Think about people you've met in your life who focus only on themselves. They're constantly thinking about themselves, analyzing themselves, worrying about themselves, thinking about themselves and only themselves. Usually, they're not happy people. I don't know, you might find occasionally one that's happy, but in general, quite miserable people. So this devotion to others is actually a fantastic way to get rid of fear and worry and unhappiness. It will make you a happier person. So that's interestingly, that's an almost selfish reason to not be selfish. It's an almost selfish reason to be devoted, to develop devotion in your life. The key thing is with devotion, to be happy, you've got to use devotion like all things. You have to use devotion in an intelligent way, in a wise way, in a right and correct and good way. If you give devotion to a bad person, if you are devoted to someone who's bad or harmful or evil, or just doesn't care, or is selfish, well, then you will suffer, right? You don't want to give your devotion to the wrong people, so choose carefully. But when you do choose carefully, developing more devotion in your life will bring great happiness to you, because devotion does. It increases love, because devotion has this quality of love. What else? Understanding. When you're devoted to someone or to people, you seek to understand them. You naturally do this. It's naturally something you do. You don't have to force yourself to do this. When you develop this devotion to others, again, specific people or God, you will seek to understand. If you're devoted to God, this is a very common phrase in English to use this word devotion connected to God or religion in general. If you're devoted to God, number one, you love God. Number two, you seek to understand. You do your best to understand God. Now, of course, God is infinite and it's very, very hard for us to understand, but you do your best to understand. On a more basic level of life, if you're devoted to to your husband or your wife or your parents, you will naturally want to understand them. You love them and care about them, and they're important. And of course, part of that devotion is you want to understand them. You want to understand them. You don't have to force yourself to do that. It's natural. You want to do it because you're devoted to them. So understanding is part of it. Number 3, another part of devotion is contribution. As I mentioned before, this is what's so great about devotion. It goes beyond just loyalty. It goes beyond even just love, because it has in it this idea of action. There's a kind of an action feeling with this word devotion. Right? Love, not so much. You can love someone, and love has more of a mental and emotional feeling to that word, the connotations of love. You know, when I think of love, it's emotional, it's internal. It's something that happens inside of you. It's a wonderful word, of course. Love is fantastic. And typically when we love someone, we do take positive actions with them, but not necessarily. But devotion has more of an idea that you are, as I mentioned before, that you are serving or trying to serve this person. That you are trying to take action that will help them. This is part of devotion. And this is, again, what makes this word so powerful and so great, because it goes beyond just feeling. It includes feeling. It includes feelings of a kind of spiritual love, not romantic love. You can be devoted to, men or women, and there's no romantic feeling to devotion, right? It's not that. But there is an emotional quality to it like that, but it's more than just emotion, right? So again, if we use this, we see this phrase used a lot in religion, so devoted to God. It gives an idea that it's not just that you believe in God, it's not just that you love God, it's that you are trying to serve God in some way. In other words, you're trying to take some actions. If you are devoted to your children, you don't just love them. Of course you love them, but you are taking actions. You are doing your best to take actions to help them, to protect them, to defend them, to teach them, to give them a happy life. All of those things. Devotion includes action, contribution. If you are devoted to a company again, let's say you are an entrepreneur and you create a company and you're devoted to your employees. Because see, this is the other good thing about devotion. It goes both ways, both directions, meaning it goes up towards leaders and people who are naturally higher, but devotion also goes down. Leaders, good leaders, true leaders, are also devoted to the people under them. So that's another great thing about this word devotion. It goes both ways. And so great entrepreneurs, business owners, are devoted to their employees. They want their employees to be happy, to have meaning. Of course, they want the business to be successful. Of course, they want to make money, of course. But they also feel this feeling of devotion to their employees. And, of course, they want the employees to feel the same about them. And in a truly fantastic, great company, you do get both. Now, that's hard to do, but it is possible. So, in organizations that are just fantastic, you'll find this more in like churches, for example. Again, we're using the religious example because it's more powerful. You'll find this in families. Where the devotion goes both ways. The children are devoted to their parents. They don't just love their parents. They're not just like selfish and spoiled. No. They want to serve their parents, help their parents, give to the family, contribute to the whole family. They're eager to do this. Not just take, I'm a kid, give me everything. No, they have devotion to their parents. They have devotion to each other. They have devotion to the family. And of course, the parents have it also towards the children. Well, that's kind of the perfect situation. It's not always what we find, but I think we all recognize that sounds wonderful. We'd all love to have that. And then finally, loyalty, which I mentioned before, is also part of devotion. It is part. When you're devoted to someone, you're not going to go against them. You're loyal to them. They're on your team. You can think of it that way. They're on your team. You can find this with brothers and sisters sometimes, where brothers and sisters sometimes, growing up, they fight a lot. I used to do with my sister, she would annoy me all the time, my younger sister. And, with her, I might be a little mean, kind of a mean brother. But if somebody bothered her, someone on the outside, not family, if somebody had, bothered her or was bullying her or doing something, I would have fought them. I would have protected her, defended her, right? Loyal. And say, no, we're family, we're on the same team. Nobody on the outside is going to do anything against my family, right? I'm loyal to them. We fight together. We protect each other. We might disagree about lots of stuff, but finally, no. We fight together, right? If you're loyal to your people, whatever you call that, your community, your nation, your group, your family, big or small, but if you're loyal to those people, you will fight for them. You will defend them against outsiders. Part of loyalty, by the way, means you do not. There's, again, equality is a lie. I think we all understand this now. But this also means we do not give equal treatment to everybody in life. Just the example I gave. I do not treat my family members the same as someone outside. My family members, I'm much more relaxed with. We could have two people, if they said the same thing to me, they did the same action to me. Let's say they said something mean to me. They insulted me. Well, if it's someone close to me that I love, that I'm devoted to, that I'm loyal to, I might be annoyed. I might argue with them. But overall, I'll forgive them. I'll eventually forgive them. And they'll forgive me if I say something to them, right? Because we're close. We're family, or we're on the same team. We're loyal to each other. We're devoted to each other. But if just some stranger insults me, very different. Very different. They don't get the same level of kindness or forgiveness or understanding. I'm not going to care about understanding them. I'm not going to care about forgiving them. I'll probably insult them back or tell them to go away or whatever. I give we say preferential treatment. Preferential means prefer, has the word prefer in it. Preferential means you prefer this person, right? They're like your favorite people. The people you care about, you give them preferential treatment, preferential love and forgiveness, and right, you're much more willing to be kind to them, to forgive them, even when they do something wrong. But others who are outsiders, who are not your people, they don't get the same thing. And that's normal, and it's human, and you should do it. Because it's not the same. People have to earn these things. A stranger has not earned the right to say something to me that's, super direct and maybe insulting, negative. If someone like that, I'll just get rid. I'm not going to listen to them. I'll just tell them to go away. If it's on social media, I'll block them. Someone who's very close to me, they have earned that right too. They know me very well. I know them. I'm devoted to them. They're devoted to me. Someone in my close family, for example. I might not like it. I might not like to hear something negative from them, but I'll probably think about it. Maybe in the moment I might get upset, but I'll think about it and think are they right? Why did they say that to me? I'll really think about it because I care about them and I trust them more, and they're part of my family, right? And of course they'll do the same, and then later we'll talk. And eventually we'll forgive each other for things. And even the thing is, too, sometimes family members will, maybe they'll hurt your feelings, right? I've had family members do things. They made mistakes. They hurt my feelings. But I'll forgive them. I'll work very hard to forgive them, even if it takes a while. But I'm not going to do that for some stranger or for some coworker. I'm not going to make a big effort to forgive them if they are unkind or towards me, or they do something probably I'm just going to cut them and say I can't trust this person, and they're gone from my life after that. Right? So again, you have to pick in life. You can't be devoted to everybody. You can't be loyal to everybody. That means you're loyal to no one. That means you love no one. This is the problem. This is the problem of being loyal to an idea, devoted to just some political idea, for example. It makes you inhuman. It actually makes you a terrible person. Because what it really means, if you say, oh yeah, everybody's equal, I love everybody, and I'm devoted to humanity, to all humans. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's completely nonsense. Bullshit basically means nonsense. Because what you're saying is you're devoted to no one. You care about no one. You're loyal to no one. You will not make any effort, any extra effort for anyone. Nobody's special. You can't be loyal and devoted to, 5 billion people. You can't be loyal and devoted to people you have never met, will never meet, know nothing about. It just sounds good. This is called virtue signaling, and it's kind of a idiom or a slang now, virtue signaling. It means you're signaling, means show. It means you're trying to show that you look good, that you have virtue. Look at me, I care about everybody. And I don't mean you. I know you are not like this, but you'll see it online. A lot of people do this. Virtue signaling. Or, I care about the environment so much. No, they don't really care. They're just trying to look good. It's just a way to try to look superior, look like they're better than others. If you have real virtue, real goodness inside of you, you will do something for specific people. This is why people, a lot of times, they complain about family members. I try to be devoted to family, but it's difficult, right? Because, it's so much easier just to say that you are devoted to environmentalism. I'm devoted to the planet. I am devoted to animals, all animals everywhere. I'm devoted to socialism. It's easy to say that, right? Because it makes you sound good. I care so much, right? This is what makes them sound good, people who do this. Because it requires no effort. It requires no difficulty. There's no challenge to that. You don't have to sacrifice it all. There's no real devotion saying those things. Demands nothing from you. Real people like family, to be devoted to family, to be devoted to your husband or your wife, that's more difficult. Much, much, much more difficult. They're a real person. That means they disagree with you sometimes. That means they annoy you sometimes, and you annoy them. That means you have arguments sometimes. That means maybe they hurt your feelings sometimes, and you hurt their feelings sometimes. All these difficulties. In any real human relationships, when we're talking about real people, and especially family, where you're living with them and you're close to them all the time, now that's much harder. But that's why it's more real. That's why the virtue is real. When you're devoted to your family, that's real because it's a challenge. It's not always easy. You really do have to contribute. You really do have to love. You do have to sacrifice sometimes. You do have to show loyalty sometimes. You do have to make sometimes a big effort to understand them. Sometimes you have to make a big effort to forgive them when they do something that hurts you. I'm talking, maybe your parents, for example. A lot of people, they grow up and they always blaming and their parents for everything. I understand, some parents do make some pretty big mistakes. And they can hurt your feelings quite a lot. But you've got to, if you're really devoted, if you really have virtue, you're really developing virtue of love and forgiveness and kindness and understanding and loyalty, devotion, right? Well, then you do the hard work of forgiving them. That's not so easy. It's easy to be so virtuous when all you have to do is talk. You just have to post something online. I care about the environment. Pray for the victims of the earthquake. I mean, that's nothing. That's nothing. It's nonsense. It requires no virtue at all. It's just trying to look good, right? People who are doing that, they're just trying to look good. It does nothing. Forgiving a mom or a dad or parents who maybe like really hurt your feelings when you were 17. And I don't mean like they, did some terrible abuse to you, but maybe they said some mean things. Maybe you had some very big disagreements. Maybe your relationship after that was not so close. Real virtue is to work on that problem, to try to understand them, to do what you can to forgive them, and of course, to make an effort so they understand you, to communicate with them more openly, to increase the honesty in that relationship, to increase the forgiveness, to show through your actions true contribution, true devotion for years and years and years, through the difficult times, the down times, the hard challenges, through misunderstandings, and through the great times and the up times also. And this is what marriage is, really. A good marriage, right? Yeah, it's not always easy. Right? It's the same idea. If you really have a devoted marriage where you're devoted to your husband and wife, well, it's doing all of this. And it is hard sometimes. And we have to let go of our ego sometimes. Sometimes we have to be strong and show leadership, and that's what we need in the relationship to really show our devotion and really give. And sometimes we have to be more soft. I mean, so it's challenging, right? And then if you have children, then it becomes even more. That's real virtue. That's real virtue. When you have to sacrifice, when you have to work, when it's a challenge, when it's difficult, and you still are trying your best to do the right thing, when you're really living and behaving and taking action and showing that devotion when it's tough. The good thing about this is the real devotion, the real virtue, that's what brings longer-term happiness, because there are rewards to this. It's not all just hard work and toughness. Sometimes it is tough, but you get rewards from tough things. It's just like your body. It's just like your body. It really is. They're very similar. These sort of spiritual laws, we could call them. Dharma is one word that's often used. Dharma, laws of Dharma. Spiritual laws, we could call them. And then even just physical laws. They're not exactly the same, but you can often see similarities. They can often have similarities. Well, one similarity is that to get physical benefits, right? To make your body stronger and make your body, in fact, just feel better, right? Less disease, stronger, more energy, all these things. What do you have to do? You absolutely must do. Of course, eat well. So bring in good nutrition, bring in good things. But the other part of it is you have to exercise. And what does that mean? Challenge your body. Challenge your body. You actually must do. You must do difficult things with your body. It's the only way to make it stronger. If you just lay on the floor all day, let's imagine you just lay in a bed all day. Just resting your body, doing what's always the most easy. Will your body get stronger from that? No. In fact, we know the exact opposite. It gets weaker and weaker. We know people who are stuck in a hospital bed. For example, they get an injury or they're sick, and they must lay in the bed all day, every day. Do they get stronger or weaker? They get weaker, much weaker. It's a big problem for hospitals. It's not enough you can't virtue signal for your physical strength and your physical health, right? You can't just talk about it. You can't post something on Facebook and say, yeah, exercise is great. Lift heavy weights. Rah! You can't just talk about it. It will do nothing for your body. Your body will not get stronger talking or signaling or saying the right thing or reading the right books or wearing the right clothes. None of that is going to help. You have to do tough things. You have to get out there and run. You have to go for long walks. You have to do push-ups and pull-ups. You have to lift heavy things. You've got to walk up the stairs. Whatever it is you do, you got to do yoga. Whatever you're doing, but you've got to, right? You challenge the body, and it's the challenges that then bring the reward later of feeling much better, feeling stronger, that happiness of health. And so, again, we see it's kind of parallel, we say, meaning kind of very, very similar, going the same way with these spiritual laws, with devotion. That it's only through going through those difficult challenges and the tough spiritual challenges of relationships and the ups and the downs and practicing devotion, especially in the tough times, in the difficult times. And that's true for devotion to God, it's true for devotion to your family and to any other people in your life. But it's doing those virtuous things, showing through action the devotion in the tough times, the difficult times, the challenging times. That's what, again, brings the spiritual rewards. That's what makes you spiritually stronger. You could even just, if you don't want to talk about spiritual, emotionally. They'll make you emotionally stronger and happier. The rewards of this devotion through difficulty, real devotion, real virtue, not the signaling and the showing and the talking, but the doing of virtue and devotion brings, just like with your body, it brings spiritual strength, brings emotional strength, brings you that great happiness that comes from that. I've had in my own life, certainly at least one example I can think of where I, with a family member, and I did have to work very hard. It took several years to forgive something that happened. Nothing, I wasn't, horribly abused or something, but still I got my feelings hurt quite a lot, and mistakes and blah blah blah. But you know what, I decided, well, no, this is family. I'm devoted to this person, and it took me a while. It took me several years, but I worked through, and I did forgive, and now it's a very, very rewarding relationship. It's actually a much closer relationship because of that. Great rewards from that, but it wasn't easy. For a while, it wasn't easy. But, that's rewards come from things that aren't easy, typically. Again, I see this with business. This difference between virtue doing, and virtue talking or signaling. You may know this if you're someone who has a business, or you're thinking about it, or you've talked about it. Let's say you have 10, in the world percentage. There are a whole lot of people who talk about starting a business. Oh, so many people who have an idea for a business, who have the genius, great idea, and they love to talk about their amazing idea. Oh, this would make a lot of money. This is such a great idea. This is what they should do. And maybe they like to criticize even other business people, and or they talk about the great big business they're going to start, or all their amazing ideas. And it's talk, it's signaling which again means showing. It's a kind of virtue signaling, but they never do it. And this is most people. The majority, I would say something like 80 or 90% of people who talk about starting a business never actually do it. The percentage that actually do it is quite small, maybe 10%. Those are the ones who have the real virtues of, persistence and hard work and self-discipline and decisiveness. These are the kind of virtues you need to start a business, to be an entrepreneur. Decisiveness is a big one, meaning you make a decision and then you take action and do it. In fact, that's probably near the top of virtues for an entrepreneur. If you're unable to make decisions and take action, or if you're afraid to, you're not going to be an entrepreneur. It's not going to happen. And indeed, this is why so many people talk about it and never do anything. And, you may hear in my voice a little bit, I find it very frustrating because, genuinely in my heart, I always wish for people to be successful. And whenever I meet someone who talks about starting a business, I'm happy to talk to them. I'm happy to give them any help or advice I can, any coaching. I'm very happy to encourage them. I want them to do it. I want them to succeed, and very genuinely, I don't want anything from them. But I've grown frustrated because I have found that most people just talk, and it starts to feel like a just waste of time because I start to realize they're just signaling. They're just trying to show everybody, because it's easy to talk about being an entrepreneur. It makes you look kind of creative, makes you look like you're, I'm not like regular people who just work for a normal job. I'm going to start a business. I'm a creative entrepreneur. But you're not an entrepreneur until you start the business. Talking does not make you an entrepreneur. Just like talking doesn't make your muscles stronger. Just like talking doesn't make you a good person. It's the doing. It's the going through the challenges. It's the doing and being virtuous in the tough times. That's what brings the rewards. So devotion, practice it, do it. This is why I say again and again and again, you've got to choose real people, real relationships, not an idea, not a cause, not a political cause, nothing like that. No, real people. Maybe people who are a little difficult to deal with. You can start with your husband or wife and children. You can start with your parents, brothers and sisters. Great place to start. Devotion is a powerful virtue. It will change your life. It will change your life when you really work hard to practice this devotion with real, specific people, your family. All right, lots of love to you. I hope you are, if not devoted, at least I hope you're very serious about improving your English. I know I am. I'm devoted to effortless English. I can use the word with effortless English because it involves love. It involves loyalty for me. It's more than just a business for making money, especially now. So I am devoted to, helping you. I want you to succeed. I want you to have the success in your life. This is why I do more than just English. I could just teach grammar and vocabulary like a lot of people. I could do that. It would be pretty easy, kind of mindless for me to do that, but I could do it. I could just teach about the tests like TOEFL and TOEIC and IELTS. Lots of people ask me about that, but honestly, I don't do it because effortless English to me is much more than that. I don't want to just teach for a test. I don't want to just teach random academic grammar rules and things. I don't want to do that because I'm devoted to, helping people be happier in their lives, have more success and more happiness in their lives with English, using English as one tool. But of course you need more. Just English is not going to make you happier in life. It might bring you some extra success. You might be able to get some better jobs and things and do some traveling, and that's great. But of course, to have greater happiness and greater success in your life, whatever success is for you, it doesn't matter. You need more than just English, and that's why I try to teach more than just English. That's why I do a show like today and talk about this, this word devotion and its deep meaning. That's why in the VIP program, I teach different psychological methods and techniques to help you be more energetic, be more healthy, be more successful, be happier. It's why I teach, leadership skills and all these other things that I'm teaching while I teach you English. And that's why people always say, our very successful VIP members who do succeed and have this great success, they always say the same thing: Effortless English is much more than just English. And that is true. And it's because of this devotion that I have to it and to you. So join my VIP program. You'll see for yourself. Join and commit to my VIP program at effortlessenglishclub.com. effortlessenglishclub.com. That's where you need to go now, to effortlessenglishclub.com.